when I was in fourth grade, the teacher called my parents and said, I think Ethan has ADHD because he falls out of his chair at least 3 times a day.
Welcome to Calming the Chaos, where I help you find peace in a chaotic world. I'm Tracy Cannella, licensed mental health counselor who talks about chaos from a mental health perspective. And I give you self-help resources you can use to calm your chaos in any situation in this world. Isn't this fun? It's not a substitute for counseling or psychotherapy, but just a lot of helpful hints and tools. So if you're on board, feel free to tune in. And now, let the chaos begin. And the chaos has begun. And one of the things that has come up in my private practice that causes a lot of people chaos is they think they have ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, either inattentiveness, hyperactivity, or both. And it causes a lot of people chaos. Unfortunately, we have somebody here today who has struggled with ADHD and has overcome it and actually helps people in his private practice to overcome ADHD through hypnotherapy. And this is Ethan Reisboard. And Ethan is here and he's coming to us from Costa Rica, of all places. So I would like to have a conversation with him about ADHD and hypnotherapy. So let us welcome Ethan to Calming the Chaos podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I like the bongos in the intro.
Yeah, that was a thing. So Ethan, you are a person who has struggled with ADHD. Can you tell the viewers of my podcast, a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I'd love to. So when I was in fourth grade, the teacher called my parents and said, I think Ethan has ADHD because he falls out of his chair at least 3 times a day. And it wasn't an issue with me sitting, it was an issue with my inability to sit still, right? So that was the introduction. My grandpa was actually a child psychologist, so I saw him. I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I was put on medication. I took medication during the school year, during school days, my entire elementary, middle, high school life. And then I got to college, and I realized that the lifestyle of college, the stress of college, it just didn't align with the medication. The medication was making my life worse and more stressful. So I had to stop, and I had to find a new way to, in line with the podcast, to manage the chaos, to access my focus, and to find tangible tools to work on that. And at that point in my life, I wasn't connected to hypnotherapy. So that was just me doing it on my own, figuring out what works for me and building a life around that so I can be most productive. But fast forward to today, and I am a board certified hypnotherapist. And one of the things I love to do is work with people on ADHD. Beyond that, focus, concentration, motivation, and all the things that come from it. And really what we can do, we'll get into it, Tracy, but it's going from chaos to clarity so we can actually take action with what we need.
Well, a lot of people come in and say, like, it's really affecting a certain area of my life. Like maybe it is affecting the ability to work and or manage things in a personal lifestyle, such as I forgot to pay a bill. I'm supposed to be paying bills and all that stuff. So that's more of the inattentive. That's what I get anyway. Hyperactive is a little bit different, and that is the inability to stay still and very impatient, not being able to, stand in line very long,
Right.
But I think I see a lot of inattentiveness in my practice. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, me too. And to be clear, I have both. The fourth grade story was the hyperactivity, but no, I can be flighty also.
So you have the combined type. So there's 3 types: the inattentive type, the hyperactive type, and the combined type.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you don't look like you're hyperactive. You look like you're pretty chill to me.
Well, you don't see my feet under the camera.
Okay. Okay, fair. So what's your secret? Like how did you calm the chaos of the struggle of ADHD?
Yeah, so what I figured out on my own was that there are things that could work for me, which is like I'm moving my foot right now and you can't see that, and that's a good thing, right? So I'm able to get my energy out, right? For me, it was finding who am I, what do I need, and how do I facilitate being able to focus to the best of my ability, right? So if I need to have a part of me moving, um, why not it be my foot that you can't see? It's way better than swaying like this, which is maybe what I would have done when I was younger, right? Also being observant about what works for you and what doesn't. Like for me, my ADHD and lack of ability to focus is much more prevalent at night. So when I was in college, my friends would do homework at night. I couldn't. I would do homework during the day. I would work during the day. So I knew that at that time I would be done, right? So that's really just meeting myself where I was. The other aspect to it that I now know that I didn't know at the time was that a dysregulated nervous system and stress responses has this incredible effect on us and how we can focus and take action. So if I was my own client now, I would do a lot of mindfulness techniques, CBT, but do those in conjunction with hypnotherapy, so they're a little more effective to implement. And really working on finding ways to settle myself so I'm more familiar settling, right? We need to have this be a learned behavior. If we can settle in some aspects of life, building and growing and bringing that to other parts, and then eventually even making it into a settled mind, right?
That sounds great. So mind-body techniques, basically, you're
Absolutely.
taking the mind and integrating it into the body and trying to settle both, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow. Well, so if you would tell us a little bit about how you got into hypnotherapy and how hypnotherapy can help people who have ADHD or who think they have ADHD, or even somebody who is struggling with attention or hyperactivity.
Right. Procrastination, focus, all of the things under the umbrella. Exactly. So I was stuck in debilitating chronic pain as the result of a mild concussion that should have recovered and never healed. It led to severe depression and a lot of anxiety. My symptoms got worse. I called my hypnotherapist, who helped me quit nicotine years ago, and just wanted to be hypnotized to be happy because I was so sad. Like I couldn't even watch Thursday Night Football, and I love the NFL. That was, to me, that was like, okay, this is like, I can't live anymore. I can't even do things that are enjoyable. So I called her and told her what was happening in my life, the physical symptoms and a bit of the outside. And she made it clear that the outside world and how my inside response to that was causing the issues way more than an issue in my brain or in my eye, like physiologically with the concussion. So she regulated my nervous system. She put me in a direction where my body was willing to heal and able to take in new healing information. And at that point, everything fell into place. The stuff I was doing for months that didn't work began to be more effective. And then for me, the side effects of that is my ADHD tendencies improved also, in being able to settle and live life at a more calm baseline. The automatic behavior to go quick starts to settle as well. Let's talk about how this can help with other people, right? As I said in the beginning, it's creating space between the chaos and the clarity. We might have a thought, I need to pay a bill, right? As in your example. And then we don't pay the bill, right? Because usually
we forget.
Right. Well, so one or two things happen. Either we forget, or paying bills is an anxiety-inducing event, and we push it aside for a minute. Right?
Procrastination.
Right. And we procrastinate, we push it off, and we repress it until it's too late, and then we forget. So if we're pushing it off, that is an indication that there's something going on in the nervous system in terms of, this perception that something emotional is causing us danger. or a perception of danger, right? That paying a bill is a threat to us in some way, right? And objectively, we know it's not. So by working to regulate the nervous system, identify safety, and allow the body to see it's safe to take this action, there's not going to be the procrastinating, repressive aspect of not paying the bill. The other part is you think it and then you just forget, right? And there is, well, when our mind is so jumbled and when it's chaos, it might be, it's funny, I just posted something on Instagram about this. Right here might be start and right here might be finish. And the truth is it's just an hour down, right? But there's thinking here and there's questioning here and there's yesterday's work and there's tomorrow's dinner and all these things going in the way. And it complicates a straight line down, right? Well, when we have a settled mind, a settled body, all of those extra things, the sideshows, are not there, right? I mean, a mindful Buddhist monk is thinking about one thing at a time, right? That's the ideal, right? So we can get there. These are learned behaviors. So by using hypnosis, we can begin to settle the mind and actually have space so that we think of something and we can take the action. We're not so overwhelmed by other thoughts.
You know, I usually say a person comes with me and they think they have ADHD. First thing I do is break out the DSM and see if they meet the criteria. And the second thing I do is say, like, all right, you got to have a good organizational system. You got to have a mindfulness technique to get your brain actually coordinated, like you were saying, settled. I love that word. And there could be medication if that is what you want. Those are the three things that I usually recommend. But you are actually doing hypnotherapy and helping people with ADHD. I would be really interested in understanding how you do that.
Right. Well, aside from the medication aspect, it's similar to what you did, except we then use hypnotherapy to implement these changes more deeply in the mind. I think that if you interviewed 100 people who tried CBT practices, cognitive behavioral therapy, of the people who didn't like it, I bet a majority of the people would say that it's just hard to implement in their life when they need it, right? That they go to a CBT specialist or therapist, they learn it, they know what's going on, why, and what they have to do. But then it comes to the moment they're facing the trigger and they don't have that willpower.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, as I understand it, is think, feel, do. And that's really the simple part of it, is that your thoughts and your feelings and your thoughts drive what you actually behave about, right? So that's the evidence-based practice that we were actually taught to do in counseling school.
Right.
However, you have a different way that may be a little bit better or different and more effective. And I'm wanting to learn a little bit more about that.
Right. Well, it's not different. It's the same, just going a little deeper in. And I love someone who has seen a therapist before and who knows what's going on, why, and what's needed, because there's no resistance. We don't have to dive. We can just start, right? Hypnotherapy itself, Tracy, or hypnosis, I should say, really feels like a guided meditation. So in an hour session, the last 20 minutes or so, you're going to be laying down with your eyes closed and you're going to be guided into a scientifically proven state of safety and openness. And, you know, if I was a hypnotherapist 30 years ago, maybe I'm a hippie and I have to prove it. But luckily, there's people nowadays like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Richard Sarno who have identified this mind-body connection, right? And who have done research on it. So that's exciting. You go into the state of hypnosis, which, as I said, feels like a guided meditation. But if we were to be in person, I could measure your heart rate variability, which would shift into this beautiful sine curve. Right now we're talking, we're in beta. Close my eyes, now I'm in alpha. When I go into hypnosis, I start to fluctuate into theta. And that's the state that's proven to be effective at, if you want to call it manifestation. That's what it is. It's visualizing a new future in the theta state where the brain is willing to take in new information, create new neoprocesses in the neocortex and implement it, right? As opposed to it just being something you're just trying to will along the way, right? I mean, that's the difference between willing and manifesting. Are you forcing it, or are you experiencing it, right?
Yeah, and hypnosis is different than hypnotherapy. When you think about hypnosis, the state of hypnosis is, like you said, getting into that theta zone where you're more susceptible to suggestion and positive suggestion. And then also being able to do the therapy where here's my problem and here's maybe where it actually goes back to if you do some sort of a regression. And it is a really powerful tool. As far as ADHD people who are out there, like what kind of hope do they have if they're really in chaos at this point, Ethan?
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with them, right? When you have ADHD or when you have anything, you think it's a me thing or there's something wrong with me. And that's completely not the case. It's a learned behavior based on the life you've lived. That this is just the mind got jumbled a long time ago and thinks that this is the successful process for me. And maybe when you were younger, you were thinking in this chaotic state and it was effective. And you built this habit, but then life becomes more complicated, more challenging. And the more overwhelmed you get, the more burnt out you get, the less energy you have. And now all of a sudden you're not in the same place that you were once in an effective process. So if you can learn something, you can unlearn it, and you can relearn something new. It's a matter of regulating and settling the body so it's willing to take in new things. It's about identifying that we're safe to act in a new behavior, right? As opposed to just acting out the past. And then in hypnosis, visualizing and implementing those changes. So what's the hope? What's someone going to see? They're going to find life is calmer. They are able to go more slowly through life and they're able to sleep better. And they're going to notice, the first thing they're going to notice is greater awareness between impulse and action. So how would you describe CBT?
Think, feel, do, but there's an urge before the do.
Right. So that's how life is. We think, we feel, we do with everything.
Yeah.
But when our life is chaos, it's all here. Think, feel, do really quickly. And the doing is based completely on the feeling, right? I want to feel more of this or I want to feel the opposite of this, right? So as you are going slower and as you're settled and as you have hypnotic tools like an hypnotic anchor or breath work, like these different settling tools, you are going to notice it coming, have greater space. And when there's space between the impulse and the action, you get the choice. You get the ability to respond in the way you want, right? And in that pause, you also have the ability to access things like CBT or breathing techniques, right? So it's just this greater holistic unraveling, really, of everything just falling into place and allowing calm and settled to implement its way into other aspects of your life. It's identifying what has happened in your life to cause you to behave in this way and using your own physiology to identify certain factors that make it possible to implement the change. All hypnosis does is allow you to go within yourself and implement the suggestions that you want and need.
Outstanding. So how can people actually see you? I do have your website here. I think this is the right one.
EthanRiceHypnotherapy.com. Exactly. That's my website.
Yeah. And you treat people like you're in Costa Rica, but you can treat anybody around the world, right?
Yeah. I work on Zoom. I've seen incredible changes in my own clients working online, and all of the healing that I personally experienced was all through Zoom as well. So it's effective. It's really cool. And it's good because then you get to be in the comfort of your home, find what works for you, and still be able to make those changes. So yeah, you can reach out to me at my website, EthanRiceHypnotherapy.com, EthanReis hypnotherapy.com. And there's a way to get in contact from me there. I offer free consultations. And yeah, I love to specialize in ADHD and anxiety and even things like pain and illness.
Yeah, it's interesting the parallels that ADHD and anxiety have, because when you were describing how you would treat a typical ADHD patient or client, I was thinking about that's what I do with anxiety. We work with the mind and the body, right? First, regulate the body, and then the mind is more clear and settled that they can make more just better decisions and choices for their lives. Yeah.
Well, there's someone, Dr. Alan Gordon, who he's a specialist in neuropathy and sciatica, like more back pain. But he works with Dr. Sarno, who's like the founder of the mind-body connection with back pain. And he's done a really good job of identifying that it all breaks down to the nervous system, whether it's pain, whether it's anxiety, whether it's ADHD. We are responding in a certain way based on perceptions of either safety or danger. Right? No one's going to come to me for a diagnosis or for medication, but if you want to learn to live your life the way you want to actually do it, right? If there's a difference between how you're living and how you want to live, and it's hard to take that action, then hypnotherapy could be very effective.
Awesome. And there is Ethan's website, Ethan, ETHANREIS, hypnotherapy.com. For those of you who are not on YouTube and are listening to it on the podcast. Thank you, Ethan.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Calming the Chaos podcast. If you found this podcast interesting or helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also go to www.calmingthechaospodcast.com to listen to all Calming the Chaos podcast episodes. I look forward to sharing my next podcast episode with you. In the meantime, take care.